coming up to the TT, I tried to get as much bike time as I possibly could, because I thought that was going to be the key to being as confident as I could be. So I did a lot of British Superbikes beforehand in the Superstock 1000 class. Obviously being 37 miles long, it's not like something that you can just learn like going around Brands Hatch or Alton Park. So all the way through the winter I actually started mine. I had a bit of a break after obviously COVID was dragging on, and I was like, is there going to be any hope of it actually happening? And when there was a light at the end of the tunnel, I started going through the winter of 21, and I was just going through, I try and get a lap a week, just so it's in my head. And then as soon as the summer nights started coming along in 2022, it's like springtime, I just started going out, trying to do like 1-2 laps a week. And then a couple of weeks before, I was doing a lap a night. And like you say, people in the UK can't do that. They've got to spend time to come over, and you've got to do it in a weekend and try and fit it in, whereas I'm doing it repetitively, and it's definitely helped. Practice week went really well, better than expected. Obviously it's my first time on 1000 on the TT course. It's my first TT, so I didn't really, I had a secret expectation. Obviously we have like a family team, so we don't have any, like, there's no pressure or anything of what I'm just to enjoy it. And basically my goal was just to keep going out and keep going quicker, slowly improve, and that was the key. And that's what I did. Every night I went out, I went slowly, like whether it was a second or 10 seconds, I went faster. And straight off, I didn't expect to do the times I did on my 1000. And then midway through the week, I actually did my secret goal, which was like 125 in practice week halfway through, and I kind of thought, I kind of put a bit of pressure on myself then. So I halted myself a little bit in the middle of practice week because I started feeling a bit of pressure, but only on myself, from myself. My dad had a little word with me and said, there's no pressure around here, you just need to go out and enjoy yourself again. And next night I went another mile an hour quicker. And yeah, I think I went into the race doing 127 mile an hour. And that was like, I was happy with my TT then. It could have ended at that, to be honest, but no, I was just keen to carry on improving then and looking forward to the racing. I don't really like saying I'm going to get top 10. I'm not like that type of person, so it was like, I have like little secret goals. Obviously, every racer wants to win a race, but no, like I wouldn't say to anybody I wanted to get top 10, but a secret, after how my week was going, a secret little goal of mine was like, I think I could get in the top 10 if I put my mind to it. I live like 5 minutes from the grandstand, and I live in Onken, so I get up, have some Weetabix, drive down to the grandstand, just speak to the team, obviously have a chat, what the plan is, obviously what the plans are for the pit stop, and then just relax, chill out. This year, what I was doing, because obviously it's a big bike, I was going on my phone on the John McGuinness onboard lap on YouTube and just sitting in the camper and just watching that just before I was going to get changed, just so it was in your mind, so you knew, like, your mind was prepared for it. Get changed and just have a wander up and get ready to go and race around the best course in the world. When I'm up in the Parc Ferme area, I always make sure my right glove goes on first. Obviously, it probably doesn't make a difference, but it's just something I've always done since I started riding, and that's something that's stuck. So you know when something sticks and you've had luck with it, you've got to carry on with it. For the senior race, I think I was that relaxed. I just seen it as I was going out for a ride around on my bike. After I had a big accident in 2015, my mum doesn't like watching anymore, so she just sits down in the motorhome and turns all the radio off and tries and blocks out the tannoy from the grandstand. But my dad, he also gets nervous. He normally sits in the Parc Ferme area waiting and puffing on his e-cig, but yeah, obviously he was keeping occupied being in the pit stop. He was doing my fuel for me, so yeah, no, there's ways and things to keep them their mind off it. But no, I couldn't rule out that they're not nervous. I think they're probably more nervous than me. It's weird, you get like a little bit of nerves obviously before you get to the start line, but as soon as you get to the start and you get ready to tap you on the back, your focus is straight on the race, and as soon as you set off, there's not even you're just like, this is like the best thing ever. But normally if you go off Danbury Hill and you're in the right mindset and everything, you can just feel it and you can tell, yeah, this is going to be good. But like I say, the senior race for me took a bit longer to get into it. obviously, as the weeks, you've done a week and a half of riding, you're starting to get tired. So I kind of thought, I've had a good TT here, I'm just going to go out and I just want to enjoy myself and enjoy the last 6 laps that you're going to have in 2022 and try and, they always say around the TT course, the more you enjoy yourself, the faster you go. So that was kind of my mindset. So I kind of went in with the mindset of you're going out, you're going to enjoy riding your bike for 6 laps around the best course in the world and go from there. During the race, it was really windy, so I struggled to get into the senior race, and I was like, do I stop? Do I carry on? And then I was like, I'm not like a kind of give up kind of person. I think I caught Rob Hodgson and maybe David Datzer, I think. So that's a kind of another thing. When you get caught, the TT isn't a place where you can just throw the bike up the inside of somebody, because you've got to like think of them and yourself. And so that's another thing that kind of like could slow you down. So obviously you can get a bit like I don't know, worked up because you're thinking you can't get past and you're losing time. Obviously where I started, it was a bit of a lower number because it was my first TT, but it's all learning, and I learned stuff off other people through that time. 126, where it isn't bad, but when I'd been doing 127.5, 127.9, it was like that's kind of where it could have been better. 13th, I think I was on the end of lap 1. Because that's another thing, you see the board and you're like 13th, you're like, who's ahead of you? Who's like, am I going slow? Is it one of the people that I've already beat ahead of me? Is that the reason? Then you're thinking constantly then is like, what's going on? Is it me, or are they getting quicker? And so it's all things like that. But then once you start settling down, you start seeing the times and the positions settling down, and you've got like a similar gap. You know that you're in the mix with the right kind of people that I wanted to be in the mix with. And then obviously you can progress from there. So I've got the position, and then I've got plus, which tells you how much you're ahead of the person behind, and I've got the minus on how far behind you're behind the person in front of you, and then obviously telling you what lap we're on. So yeah, that's the information that I try and get. Lap 2, I was like going on to it, and like say, I was better than lap 1, but it still wasn't flowing as I liked it to be. I wasn't in it where I'd like to be, kind of thing. Obviously lap 2 is a pit stop lap, and I come into the pits and I said to my dad, I said, I just can't get into this, and he was like, you can stop, there's nothing forcing you to carry on, we'll take it off. But I was like, I'll give it another 2 laps and see what happens and see if I can get into it. So like into it, the way I mean by like getting into it is like, I don't feel like I'm fully on it where I should be, so I don't feel like I'm hitting the right markers everywhere. I feel like I'm going through places slower than I have been. I just feel like it's not coming to me. Like the TT course, you've got to let it come to you, and you shouldn't force it. I felt like I was having to force it quite a bit, and like you say, I'm not that type of rider to do things like that. So I think because I was trying to force it a little bit, that was making me go slower as well, instead of letting it come to me. And then I was getting frustrated because I was like not doing what I should have been doing. So that's kind of the way I mean by getting into it. For the pit stop, the first thing I think of is coming down and trying to get the thing stopped. Because you obviously got to get in for the speed limit into the pit lane. So I'm trying to think, where am I going to brake? Where could I brake? Where's the latest I could possibly brake without trying to get a speed penalty? So I used just past the bus stop. There's like a bus stop on the left-hand side on Glencottree Road, and I just brake just after that and get hard on the anchors. And then you're trying to get the thing stopped, and then all you're looking for is your man coming into the pit lane. He's waving you in, and yeah, basically head for him, and then the boys do what they need to do. I actually didn't change the tyre because I used super stock tyres, so I did 4 laps on a super stock tyre, whereas the Superbike boys would have used 2 sets of tyres. They would have put one in after lap 2 and lap 4. So all I had there was a drink, took a tear off, and my dad put the fuel in. And then yeah, just had a little chat, and they just give you motivation. Like my brother's there, just saying you're doing good, just to try and keep you going, basically, keep you in the right mindset. One, it's risk, because obviously things can go wrong. Obviously the bike's getting hot, and I was on a superstock bike, whereas in a superbike race, so I thought the tyres got to do 4 laps in the superstock race, so it can do 4 laps in the superbike race. With it being a superstock bike, I just thought it was fitting. I've only ever used superstock tyres. I've never actually used a slick in my racing career, because I'm always new to the 1,000 kind of scene. So I said to my dad, I said, I'm happy to do 4 laps on one tyre, and we'll just change it after lap 4 for the last 2 laps and try and use a fresh tyre to go for a good lap time or push on where I need to push on. So that was kind of the reason behind only doing 1 tyre change rather than 2. If I would have done a pit stop after lap 2, it's twice the spindle, the rear wheel's got to come out and go back in again when it's that hot. So it's avoiding error. So yeah, no, I'd definitely say so. Like you say, there were 2 really fast pit stops. They got me in and out and got the job done. It's weird because you feel like you say, you've been doing 200 mile an hour for like, what, 60 mile, and then you come down to stop. You think you got, like when you watch it, you feel like it's a bit of time. Like say you're watching from the side, you think, oh, there's a bit of time there. They get a drink and whatever else. But literally, you get your drink, you ram it in your mouth, you swallow it, you throw your bottle down. The next minute, you're off and you're thinking, like the superbike race, I was like eager to get going again. In the superstock race, the boys were that quick. I was like, bloody hell, I could have done with sitting there for a bit longer and having another bit of a drink. But no, I was like the senior race, sorry. Yeah, they were rapid, and I wouldn't have minded another 5 seconds for another bit of a drink and a refresher, but no, it was good. Lap 3, after the pit stop, I think because I had a drink refreshed, they kind of give me a bit of like motivation, a few wise words and whatever else. I just started coming back to me. I didn't feel like I was having to rush anything. My riding was coming back slowly, and coming to lap 4, I said, and like you say, lap 4, I come into the pit stop again, and I said to my dad, I said, I'm feeling better. I said, but still not how I would be. And he was like, just go and enjoy your last 2 laps. So that's what I did. I went out, enjoyed my last 2 laps, and my mindset is on the last 2 laps is you can't do this again for another 12 months. So you've got to make it count. And it's just little things like that you tell yourself in your head that it makes it happen, if you know what I mean. And in my last lap, it just come to me, like everything come back to me, hit my markers everywhere. It didn't feel like I was trying. I felt like I was enjoying myself, and yeah, it just really come to me and ended up being my fastest lap of the event. You come through Crosby and you're on the run up the hill past the pub, and I'm just looking at it and you see all the crowds and everything, and you're like, there's nothing better in the world than doing this. And I just, like you say, I'm just thinking, you're literally going up there and you're like, this is the best thing you could possibly do. And I'm just thinking, like you say, you can't do this for another year. So yeah, it's just, that's how I see it. Lap 6, I was like completely on my own. I didn't see anybody at all. I was going up the mountain on lap 6, coming up the mile. Normally you can just see little blobs like turning in or at the end of the mile, and I didn't see anybody for the whole lap. And I think that was another thing. I quite enjoy being on my own, and like, literally I felt like I was riding around the course on my own. So I literally had the TT course to myself. So no, it was good. It was just like a dream lap, really. This is in touchy. If I give this a good go in the last 2 laps, I could get a top 10 in my first senior TT. And I actually think the superstock bike in the end was probably easier to ride than the superbike would be, because obviously it's a little bit tamer. It's a bike that I ride week in, week out at the British Superstock Championship, and it's a bike that I put a lot of time into. So I feel like for my first TT, it was definitely the right thing to do. And like you say, it just come to me. For my first TT, to be like 20 seconds off 130, obviously in the conditions as well, obviously all the times were down, and I think that was due to the conditions. To do 128 in like conditions that weren't ideal, in my first TT, in my first senior race, in a top 10, like you say, that's like dreams come true. Obviously I've been the kid that always wanted the signatures, running around the grandstand and whatever else, pestering John McGuinness, to doing the senior TT and coming 10th place and doing 128 mile an hour. It was it blew my expectations well out the window. Like you say, I was hoping for 125, so 128 it was a dream come true. All year we'd been racing together, and like the Northwest 200 we had some good races, and obviously TT in the Super Sport race, I think I was ahead of him in one of the races, and then like you say, to be behind the man that I grew up watching, he's been the legend of the TT for like the last decade, hasn't he? So like, yeah, to finish one place behind him in my first senior TT was an unreal feeling. Like to get off the bike and he was there, shook my hand and everything. And like I say, he's been a great help to me as well this year, giving me advice and pointers. So yeah, no, it's great to be like in the mix with him really. In practice, I was always loving the run up the mountain, and then coming into the racing, I was struggling on the run to the mountain, and I've been thinking about it ever since then. I was like, I could have gone so much quicker up there, but obviously you can't turn back the clock. Everyone would love to turn back the clock, but it's there now. I know I've made notes of it and everything else, so it'll be there for next year. And like you say, it's all homework. Like you say, it's my first TT at the end of the day. I did everything right. Every time I went out, I went quicker, and that hopefully now I can use that bit of information and all that data that I've got from this year to hopefully keep moving up the leaderboard and speed times in 2023. I know the circuit well because I'm local, but when you're on a bike doing 190, 200 mile an hour, things come a lot different when you're driving down Sulby in your van at 30 mile an hour. But like now I've got that experience of riding the TT course that fast, on a bike that fast. It's all in my head now where, like, when you look back, you're like, I could have done this, I could have done that. It's always the way when you're a racer, you're thinking of things you can improve on. I'm gutted that it's over. That's probably the biggest thing. But no, like, I just come across the line, and obviously when you're a local, you get a lot of local support, and it's just like, it's unreal when you're coming down over Glen Country Road, and like you say, after having such a great TT debut, seeing the support that I had, and it's just like, you're coming down, you're thinking, it's just, you're more like, has that just happened more than anything? And yeah, when you come around the return road and you see everybody like with their hands out and everything, and like all my family, friends and everything, it's just, yeah, it's just a dream come true. Well, I seen the board saying, I can't really say what it said because somebody had an electronic board going out of Ballycrane, and it basically said P10 plus 5, and it said hurry the F up. So I was like, I've got to do this now. It's like an electronic board, and I was like, actually made me laugh going through Glen Helen, but it kind of gives, they're like the kind of things that you see, and you're like, right, this is something this was a personal goal before the race. Nobody knew I wanted to get in the top 10. It was like a secret to me. So it just made me push on that little bit all the way through, I went through a few places I've never been that quick, just not out of control, but I just tested the water. I knew I always could, but I just bit the bullet and did it. And then the next time I knew I was 10th is when I come down the return lane, and then my brother and my dad were waiting for me, and I could just tell with like the smile on their face, because they knew what I'm like with like results and everything. They know I'm never normally happy because I always want to be better. And when I could see the smile on their face, I think they knew I'd be happy with a top 10. I could tell that was it. Dad and brother, they're both there. I think my dad was made up that it was over. Obviously, he had 2 weeks of stress. He probably lost about 2 stone because he doesn't eat when I'm racing. And like you say, he was there, and he was just grabbing me, giving me a big like pat on the back. And yeah, I think he was made up obviously for everything they'd done. They put everything into my racing, my mum and dad. And I think he was made up multiple factors. Obviously, everything I've been through. My first TT first TT's over, top 10 in my first TT. There's multiple factors, and then obviously my brother, he's always somewhere near me. He's somewhere floating around, helping me wherever he needs to be. So yeah, I think he was actually probably more happy than I was. So I'm proud for myself to obviously finish my first TT, but I'm also proud to do it for everybody else as well. That's helped me. It's like a big reward for everybody, and I still now can't believe what happened. It feels like all a blur still, but in the winter months, I'm sure I'll look back and watch all the videos again and think that actually happened, and it'll motivate me to be a bigger and better 2023. Unreal and blowing all my expectations. I always knew that TT was going to be one of the best things I did in my life. but I didn't actually think it was going to be as good as it was. Yeah, blowing all my expectations and was an unreal feeling.